In the quiet suburbs of Seattle, Daniel Hurst vanished without a trace, leaving his wife Emily terrified and the community in shock. His business partner, Ethan Cole, harbored secrets that could destroy them both, while a dangerous ex-con, Travis Reed, lurked in the shadows, ready to turn greed into murder. In just 72 hours, every lie unraveled, alliances shattered, and a simple disappearance became a deadly web of betrayal, ransom, and revenge. This is the story of how trust can be deadly, greed can destroy, and a man named Daniel Hurst paid the ultimate price for uncovering the truth. It began on a cold Friday night in a quiet suburban town outside Seattle, the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and waved to their neighbors. The Hurst family had lived there for 6 years without any trouble. But on that night, at exactly 9:13 p.m., a distress call came through the local police dispatch. It was from a woman named Emily Hurst, her voice trembling as she reported that her husband Daniel hadn't come home from work. He was never late, never unreachable. He had left his office at his usual time, around 7:30 p.m., but 2 hours later there was still no sign of him. Emily had tried calling his phone multiple times, but it went straight to voicemail. When officers arrived at the Hurst residence, everything seemed normal at first glance. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no overturned furniture. Emily appeared shaken but composed, answering every question carefully. She explained that Daniel was a 37-year-old construction manager known for his strict routine and dependability. He always called if he was running late. It wasn't like him to disappear without a word. Officers conducted a quick search around the neighborhood, checking the nearby streets and parking areas. But there was no trace of Daniel or his car, a silver Toyota Camry. The following morning brought the first major development. A jogger reported seeing a car parked near an old bridge just outside town. Police arrived at the scene and confirmed that it was Daniel's vehicle. The car door on the driver's side was open, and the keys were still in the ignition. The engine had gone cold, suggesting it had been there for several hours. Inside, the seats were neat, the phone holder was empty, and Daniel's wallet was missing. But it was the small details that disturbed investigators the most. Near the passenger door, there were 2 distinct sets of footprints in the mud, one matching Daniel's shoe size, the other larger and deeper. A faint smear of blood was found on the handle, though it was too little to identify on the spot. Detectives initially considered the possibility of suicide, given the location near the bridge. But that theory quickly began to fall apart. The scene was too organized, and Daniel's personal life showed no signs of distress. He had no history of depression, and there were no notes or digital traces hinting at self-harm. His financial records were clean, his work life stable, and his marriage solid. Nothing pointed toward a man preparing to vanish or end his life. The sense of unease deepened as detectives questioned neighbors and colleagues. A few remembered seeing a dark SUV parked near Daniel's workplace around the time he left the office. The description was vague, but it stood out. An unfamiliar vehicle in a small community where everyone knew each other's cars. As the sun set on the second day, investigators realized they were no longer searching for a missing person. They were chasing something far more sinister. The 72-hour clock had started, and every second was slipping away. Detectives began piecing together Daniel's final movements, retracing every step he took that evening. Security footage from his office building confirmed that he left at 7:42 p.m., just as his co-workers had said. He looked calm, carrying his briefcase and wearing his usual gray jacket. From there, cameras at a nearby intersection caught him driving toward a gas station less than 2 miles away. That was where the case took its first strange turn. The gas station's security footage showed Daniel pulling up to pump number 4, refueling, and then stepping inside the store to pay. Moments later, a dark SUV entered the lot and parked beside his car. The SUV stayed there for almost 3 minutes before both vehicles pulled out one after the other, heading in the same direction. Detectives enhanced the video and saw that the SUV's license plate had been partially covered with tape, concealing 2 of the digits. It was a deliberate move, not something done by accident. The vehicle appeared to be a newer model with tinted windows, making it impossible to identify the driver. Investigators began cross-referencing every dark SUV registered in the area, focusing on anyone connected to Daniel or his company. Meanwhile, forensic teams combed through Daniel's abandoned car for evidence. They found traces of mud inside the passenger side footwell, fibers from a dark synthetic material, and what appeared to be a faint handprint on the rear window. When analyzed, the fibers turned out to belong to a high-grade tactical fabric, the kind used in military or law enforcement gear. As the investigation deepened, detectives uncovered a disturbing detail from Daniel's recent past. 2 weeks before his disappearance, he had confided in a coworker about receiving strange phone calls. The caller never spoke, just breathed heavily and hung up after a few seconds. Daniel had dismissed it as a prank, but the coworker remembered how uneasy he seemed. Investigators traced Daniel's phone records and confirmed that several of those calls came from unregistered, prepaid numbers. The timing of the last call, just hours before he vanished, raised serious concern. When detectives visited Daniel's workplace, they began hearing whispers of tension and betrayal. Daniel had been overseeing a large construction project worth several $1,000,000. Recently, there had been issues with missing funds, close to $80,000 that had disappeared from the project's budget. Some employees hinted that Daniel had been accused, though there was no proof. The company had quietly launched an internal audit, and Daniel had seemed unusually stressed. His business partner, Ethan Cole, claimed Daniel was being framed, but he also admitted that the investigation had strained their friendship. The detectives now had two possible motives: money and revenge. Someone might have wanted to silence Daniel before he could reveal what he knew. As night fell on the second day, investigators gathered in the precinct's briefing room, reviewing timelines and evidence. Every lead pointed toward something planned, something targeted. Daniel hadn't simply vanished. He had been followed, watched, and taken by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The question was no longer where he went, but who wanted him gone, and why they acted with such precision. By the second day, the investigation shifted from a missing person case to a full-scale criminal inquiry. Detectives were working around the clock when an anonymous package arrived at the station. It was a small brown envelope with no return address, postmarked from within the same county. Inside was a USB drive labeled only with Daniel's initials. The contents sent a chill through everyone in the room. The footage showed Daniel tied to a chair, blindfolded, and visibly injured in a dimly lit room. His breathing was heavy, and there was a visible wound on his forehead. A distorted, robotic voice demanded a confession about the missing $80,000 from his company's project. The video ended abruptly with Daniel shaking his head and struggling against the restraints before the screen cut to black. The timestamp on the video showed it had been recorded less than 24 hours earlier. This meant Daniel was likely still alive when the package was sent. FBI agents joined the case immediately, classifying it as a possible kidnapping with financial motives. Investigators began examining the background noise in the video, hoping to identify the location. Faintly, they could hear what sounded like water dripping and a passing train horn, suggesting the room was near the industrial district or close to the river. Forensic analysts enhanced the video and found a faint reflection of a sign in a metallic surface behind Daniel. A single red letter, R. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Detectives turned their attention to Ethan Cole, Daniel's business partner. He had been cooperative until now, but seemed increasingly nervous during questioning. His answers were rehearsed, and he avoided eye contact when asked about the missing funds. Investigators soon discovered that Ethan had recently purchased a black SUV, matching the one seen in the gas station footage. When confronted, he claimed the vehicle had been stolen 2 weeks earlier, and that he hadn't reported it because he believed the thief would abandon it. His story raised immediate suspicion. A background check revealed that Ethan had significant debts from failed investments and had been secretly transferring company money into personal accounts. Meanwhile, a search team began scouring abandoned warehouses within a 10-mile radius of the industrial area, using the faint clues from the video as guidance. They searched old storage buildings, empty factories, and basements, but found nothing. Each hour that passed tightened the pressure. The media had caught wind of the story, and headlines described Daniel as a respected manager turned possible whistleblower. Public attention was growing, and the department knew time was running out. Late that evening, a new lead emerged when a delivery driver reported seeing a suspicious man loading large plastic containers into a van near an old railway depot. The man matched Ethan's height and build. When officers arrived, the van was gone, but tire marks on the ground matched those from Ethan's missing SUV. The evidence was now circling him from all directions. Still, without Daniel, there was no definitive proof of what had happened. The investigators knew one thing for certain. The case was escalating, and whoever held Daniel was running out of reasons to keep him alive. As the third night fell, tension thickened across the investigation room. Detectives had spent nearly 60 hours tracing leads, every moment haunted by the image of Daniel in that chair. Around midnight, a patrol unit on the outskirts of town reported flickering light coming from an abandoned warehouse near the old railway tracks. It was a decaying structure, half-collapsed, used in the past for freight storage. The location matched the environmental clues from the video. The dripping water, the faint sound of trains, even the letter R that could have belonged to an old rusted sign outside the building. SWAT teams were dispatched immediately. Within 20 minutes, floodlights surrounded the warehouse, illuminating its crumbling walls and shattered windows. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay. Officers moved carefully through the shadows, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. In the corner of one room, they found a broken chair, lengths of frayed rope, and a piece of torn duct tape stuck to the floor. On the nearby table lay a half-empty water bottle and a blood-stained rag. A cracked phone was found beneath a pile of debris. It was Daniel's. The device had been damaged, but technicians were able to retrieve partial data from it. The last outgoing signal had been sent the night before from this very location, confirming he had been held here. The search extended into the back section of the warehouse where officers discovered fresh tire tracks in the dirt, leading out through a side exit. The pattern matched the same brand of tires used on Ethan Cole's missing SUV. Investigators began to piece together what likely happened. Daniel had been moved, possibly when the kidnappers realized the police were closing in. As the forensic team documented the evidence, one of the officers noticed faint footprints near the rear door. Two distinct sizes, one large, one smaller, consistent with at least two suspects. Later that night, surveillance footage from nearby traffic cameras revealed a breakthrough. Around dawn, a black SUV had been seen speeding away from the area, heading toward the forested hills outside town. The license plate, though partially obscured, appeared to match Ethan's vehicle. A multi-state alert was issued and a manhunt began. Hours later, the SUV was found crashed off a dirt logging road roughly 50 miles away. The driver's side window had been shattered, and blood covered the steering wheel. Ethan Cole was discovered slumped in the seat, barely conscious, with a gunshot wound to his shoulder. In the passenger seat was Daniel's wallet, along with a small envelope containing stacks of cash, roughly $10,000 in unmarked bills. Paramedics rushed Ethan to a nearby hospital while police searched the crash site for any sign of Daniel. They found none. The surrounding forest was combed for hours, but it yielded nothing more than broken branches and footprints leading deeper into the woods before disappearing entirely. Detectives realized the case had reached a critical breaking point. Someone else was still out there. Someone who had escaped with both the truth and the rest of the missing money. As dawn broke on the fourth day, the investigation entered its final stretch. Ethan Cole lay in a hospital bed under police guard, his shoulder bandaged, his expression blank. Detectives surrounded him, determined to uncover the truth. For hours he refused to speak, but eventually exhaustion and guilt broke through his silence. What he revealed unraveled the entire mystery. Ethan admitted that he had orchestrated Daniel's abduction, but not with the intention of killing him. He had discovered weeks earlier that Daniel was planning to expose the embezzlement scheme at their company. Ethan had been siphoning funds from the construction project to cover his gambling debts, believing no one would notice. When Daniel found irregularities in the financial records, he confronted Ethan privately, threatening to go to the authorities. Desperate to protect himself, Ethan contacted an old acquaintance, a local ex-convict named Travis Reed, to intimidate Daniel into silence. The plan had started as a scare tactic. Travis was supposed to kidnap Daniel, force him to record a confession admitting to the theft, and then release him unharmed. But things spiraled out of control once money entered the picture. Travis saw an opportunity to profit and demanded a ransom. Ethan, terrified and in over his head, agreed to pay. However, during the ransom exchange, Travis double-crossed him. He took the money, shot Ethan in the shoulder, and fled, leaving Daniel behind in the chaos. Ethan had crashed his SUV while trying to chase him through the forest. When detectives pressed him about Daniel's whereabouts, Ethan hesitated, his voice trembling as he admitted he didn't know what Travis had done after the shooting. Armed with this confession, police launched a manhunt for Travis Reed. His criminal record included robbery, assault, and illegal possession of firearms. He was dangerous and unpredictable. Investigators traced his movements through gas station security footage and highway toll data, leading them deep into the mountains north of the city. After nearly 12 hours of searching, officers located a small decaying cabin hidden behind dense pine trees. The area was eerily quiet. When they entered, the stench of damp wood and decay filled the air. In one corner of the room they found an empty duffel bag, torn restraints, and a blood-stained tarp. Beneath the wooden floorboards, detectives discovered what they had feared all along: Daniel's body. He had been dead for more than a day. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, likely from a violent struggle. Travis was nowhere to be found, but his fingerprints covered nearly every surface. 3 days later, police found his car abandoned at a rest stop near the state border, but he had vanished completely. The case became one of the most haunting in the department's history, a story of greed, betrayal, and desperation. Daniel Hurst had tried to do the right thing and paid the ultimate price. Ethan was charged with conspiracy, kidnapping, and second-degree murder, while Travis remained a fugitive. The final 72 hours had revealed every hidden truth, proving once again that in the world of crime, loyalty fades fast, and greed always ends in tragedy. The disappearance of Daniel Hurst exposed how quickly greed and betrayal can turn deadly. In just 72 hours, secrets were revealed, alliances shattered, and one man paid the ultimate price for uncovering the truth. This case is a chilling reminder that even in the calmest neighborhoods, danger can lurk behind the brightest facades. If you were shocked by this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more gripping true crime cases. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with every twist and turn in the world of real-life mysteries.